Welcome back to Dolor Factor Live here on DBS. You have until 9:30 to send in your answers. Quick reminder of the questions. Who wrote the book A Common Sense Approach to Money? Name 2 flavors of Farron's ice cream. We've actually mentioned them, okay? Now, who is the male opening MC of First Citizens Financial Wellbeing Conference? What's the name of the famous weather-protecting paint product supplied by Carrasco and Son? What's the name of the project that DFL launched today? And name the website that will be the trade portal for St. Lucian Goods and Services. Now, later on, we're actually going to be hearing from Angus McMillan. He's actually here, our psychotherapist, because we got so many questions already asking about self-esteem. So we knew the right person or the best person to answer some of those questions would be him. And I have to say that I was really saddened when I got questions like, how do you not suffer from self-esteem when your partner always puts you down? That is so heartbreaking. We didn't get that question once, twice, or 3 times. We got it several times across the board. So Angus is here to answer such questions. Now, let me ask both of you here with us. I mean, in terms of self-esteem, what's your definitions and how do you think we can build? I know that's 2 questions, but what is your kind of definition of self-esteem or self-worth, whichever way you want to put it? Andrew?
For me, self-esteem starts with accepting that whatever it is you think you want to do, you're capable or you're endowed with the right to pursue it. So whether you fail or you succeed, you have the right to pursue whatever it is, whatever ambition you have. Once you accept that kind of image of yourself, that for me, that's the basis of self-esteem. So, because what happens, it's easy to have self-esteem when you're successful, but when you experience failure, a lot of persons tend to discard their self-esteem, or at that point, their self-confidence.
I agree with some of that, most of that, but when you say that, you know, if you're successful that you'll have a higher self-esteem, I don't totally agree with that, because you can have that self-esteem in terms of your career, but on your personal life, there could be other things happening, and you just cannot manage them. So that's why sometimes you see people, they're professional people, and you think, oh, they think they know it all, blah, 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 but they cannot handle some of the personal issues
I would
that are
think
happening.
of the fact that, just from a layperson's point of view, that they would probably go home beating themselves up because they did not succeed at this particular thing. And I think that everything we do in life is a learning experience, no matter how good or how bad it turned out. That bad thing can teach you something about what your next step is, or what you ought to do differently the second time around. And I think a lot of people see failure as, or the idea of failure as something so terrible. They then put themselves in this confined ball that they prevent themselves from moving forward or even trying again. And that's wrong. We're supposed to make mistakes in life.
But I think one of the things when it comes to us as St. Lucians, as I said in my opening, we come across as very pleasant people. People always say, oh, very polite people, St. Lucians. But how can we be so pleasant and polite? And yet, if someone says to us, you're doing something really well, we still don't believe that we can be doing those things very well. Where does that come from?
Well, as far as the pleasant part, that's just a first impression, just a very short first impression. And for you to know anything about anybody, you need time to know someone. Now, I think it has to do on an individual basis. If you yourself do not think you worthy of whatever gifts that you may have, those persons may find it really hard to commend somebody on something that they are doing, and that comes from maybe a selfish place. Sometimes it could be because of maybe your own trials and tribulations in the things that you want to do. It could be the way you've been brought up. Maybe you were never encouraged to go out and explore, not in a wide sense, but try and test different areas, even from when you're a child, and some people are able to do it and some parents are not, but it could be from playing music, playing a sport, being active in school, those little things, and it has to do, for me personally, it stems from encouragement.
Yeah,
when you are
I can
when
see
you're
that.
just growing up.
Let me just go to the phone line, because we actually have someone on the phone. What we'll do is we'll go back to it a bit later. I wanted to speak about when we ask you to think about what's good about you, and when we say to you, we're going to come out to your communities, you have some time to think about it. Don't think you're just going to show it to us and that's the end of it. If you're really good at what you're doing, you know, as Andrew said earlier, the sponsors will help you, they'll talk to you, will put you on the right road. Sometimes it's not about just money, you know, it's about mentoring, it's about motivating, all those kind of things. And ultimately, we have partners coming on board with us who can take you to the next step. We're going to be taking a call later from a few people who will say to you, we're going to do just that, which is like one of our giveaways tonight is a hamper from people who can help you. If you're good at what you do and you can perhaps export it, they will help you to do that, so you're not on your own. If there's something that you feel that you want to do, but you're shy, you're not sure who to talk to, you think people will laugh at you, this is your opportunity. Don't take it lightly. We've taken it very, very, very seriously. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about, as sponsors, when we first, you know, sat down, we started to talk about what can we give back to St. Lucia. Why do you think that low self-esteem was like at the top? It just seemed glaring. I mean, we're thinking, what can we do? And then it was just, why do you think that was the obvious thing, really?
It is very, well, first of all, when we were approached concerning the whole project, I was a little concerned that it may appear to be like a cliche, because a lot of people have started. But at the same time, I realized too that a lot of us are fortunate to have done a lot of the things that we are doing. And that is because it came from a stronger place. And I observe young persons, I observe older people, if it's retirees, there is something stopping them from moving on or even venturing to do something new. Whether it is something they've always thought of or not, it is just in everyday life and just speaking to people around you, looking at persons in your communities. Sometimes just the words that somebody utters about themselves or about another person tells you something that you see there's something seriously going wrong. And because of the really trials and tribulations that have been happening in our society now, it is so evident that people are just not hopeful, not even in themselves, to know that they can actually, irrespective of what's going on, there is an opportunity for you to do something, to have some impact whilst you are here on earth. Something worthwhile. Doesn't matter how big, it doesn't matter how small.
But a lot of people, they do know that, maybe deep down inside,
yes,
but they don't do it. And someone actually emailed us, and I'm sure I'll read it out later, and they basically said something to the tune of, well, your self-esteem is very much dependent on the people that you are with, the people that you spend your time with, you know, and it can go either way. Because if you are at home and you have, say, parents who perhaps don't have much education and they got by and they don't believe in you having education, they'll say, well, what's the, you know, it doesn't really matter because I got by, you know. Or perhaps they could be covering up and say, well, because they can't afford education, they may say, oh, well, it doesn't really matter, but they won't tell the child it's because they can't afford to pay for the child's education. But the child themselves thinks, well, I wish I could do more. There's nothing wrong with that child talking to someone they trust and saying, you know, I think that there are some issues at home, but I really want to do something. Can you help me? Because there are other organizations and maybe things that you don't know about. And I think a lot of us, we assume, they just assume nothing can be done. You can't help me, you know. But if you ask a question, then you may be pleasantly surprised as to where the help is or how you can get help.
Well, from when the project now starting off, you it's more or less giving of yourself. We don't have millions of dollars. We come in as who we are. We've all gone through trials and tribulations ourselves. We've gone through obstacles. Some people are very judgmental when they look at you and they feel that you have not gone through anything, and that is being a little pessimistic. And you people are people, and everybody, no matter how well dressed you are, non-well dressed you are, everybody has gone through something that they can impart that on, onto somebody else, and that can help them. Talking, I mean, I could go as far as I love Oprah Winfrey. I love the OWN channel, and speech and talking does fabulous and wonderful things. Just telling somebody of your life experience can just make a transition in somebody else's life. And it doesn't have to be monetary. A lot of people, sometimes we do things one-off, and maybe that one-off thing is that discussion you had with that person. You went deep down in yourself and you were honest about, you showed candor, and you were honest about what you had gone through, and you never know how much that is going to impact somebody.
True, and also follow through. It's not just a matter of meeting them once, saying to them, I think this is what you should do, or whatever, however you want to say it, and then you don't see them anymore, you don't follow through. That too is really important, that you show your interest and you make time for that person. And that's why You Factor is so important, because we are relying on you to tell us where you think, the areas where you think you're good at, and if you need some help. I mean, where do you get those, those offers? Because a lot of organizations, that's what they're there for. But unfortunately, they cannot cater for everyone. Not that we can, but we think that we have a nice platform where you can approach us. We'll come to the communities. You can tell us, you can show us. Let's build our self-esteem together. Let's just make sure that we are happy. And we flatter people, we pride people. My mum always said to me, the way to a man's heart is to flatter him, and I think it works. It works. You flatter somebody, they feel good about themselves, and you get what you want from them ultimately. But this is the Dolor Factor Live. We're going to say goodbye to Suzette now. Suzette, the pleasure as usual.
Oh yes.
To have you.
I was really happy to be a guest there, especially to discuss the You Factor. And
no, thank you very much for Sissons to being on board, and of course Carrasco by extension.
Very much happy about that.
Great, so thank you so much. So join us on set. Shortly will be Angus McMillan. He is going to be talking to us more about the emotional side of self-esteem and answer all the questions you've already sent to us. You have 10 minutes to answer any of the questions to win tonight, and remember, you can find the questions on DolorFactorLive.com. When we get back, we'll be taking your calls. This is Dolor Factor Live on DBS. Speak to you soon.